So how do you test whether it is on Facebook or not? Do you have Facebook on your machine somewhere, Sutapa Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, I have, and it's showing.
It's showing there? Okay. For some reason, there's always a delay on my side. I'm not able to still see it, but I'll take your words for it.
No, it's showing, and I can check on the phone too.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So you are a Facebook user. That's very good. So we can close. Okay, now, yeah, somehow it goes behind. Now I can see it. Okay. All right. So let's get started now with the prayers to the spiritual master here. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining us here on Facebook, and those of you who are here with me on the Zoom. So today we're going to continue our reading from the 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, and we are on verse number 5 from the 5th chapter. And welcome Namazi Amataji to the call. And I think I have not removed the waiting room from others, so let me do that also, so that others can join us if they wish and when they are. Okay. So let us go and look, without much ado, look at chapter number 5.5, and we'll just get started there. Meera Mataji, thank you for joining us. So before we go into 5.5, since you're only 5 verses deep, let's go and look at the verses. So in text number 1, Arjun shows his confusion, where he was saying that, Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So it's kind of like, you walk and you don't walk also. And there is a very nice verse in Ishopanishad. Does anybody remember what is that verse in Ishopanishad that talks about walk and not walk? Is that in Ishopanishad? Mantra number 5. Tad jati tad nejati, tad ijati tad nejati, tad dure tadva antike, tad antar asya sarvasya, tad u sarvayasya bahyataha.
He walks and he does not walk. Yeah.
Exactly. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He's far away, but he's very near as well. He's within everything, and yet he's outside of everything. So this is what is known as achintya. These are things that it is very difficult for us to conceive because of the limitations of our intellect. We can only think beyond and cannot think beyond that, right? So here in the purport, Prabhupada says that Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here is a description of some of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities executed by his inconceivable achintya, inconceivable potencies. The contradictions given here prove the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. Within our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive of the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavad school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal feature. But the members of the Bhagavata school, adopting the perfect conception of the Lord, accept his inconceivable potencies and thus understand that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavata know that without inconceivability, there can be no meaning to the words Supreme Lord. Not take it for granted that because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Sri Ishopanishad refused this argument by declaring that the Lord is far away but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita 15.6. And so while we are relishing all these verses, we'll open 15.6 And it says, na tadbhasyate suryo, na shashanko, na pavakaha, yadgatva na nivartante, tadhama paramam mama. So that supreme abode of mind, Krishna is saying, is not illumined by the sun or moon. So even the sun rays cannot reach it. It's so far away. Nor by the fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. The spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka or Golok Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, simply because all the planets are self-luminous. So imagine, no electricity bill. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun. Okay, this is where Bhagavatam differs from what we understand in ordinary science. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous, but all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitutes the shining sky known as Brahma Jyotir. All right, so actually the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material world. Other than that, the major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan. As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. So we have talked about what does it mean to have a conditional life or a conditioned life or a conditioned soul. So what was it? What does it mean to be conditioned?
May I answer, Mataji?
Yes, please.
Yes, a condition, as you had given the example of the AC, that you get conditioned to the one point of, you see, you have set the
temperature, humidity.
Set the temperature, according to that, and then you get conditioned to that temperature, and once you go out somewhere, you feel that it is something different. It is the temperature is different than that, so we get conditioned into it. And then you had given the example of Indradev, that he came down in the form of a pig, and then he was when Brahmaji came down to tell him that now your time is over, you come up, you have to take care of everything. And he said, no, I'm very happy with my family, my wife, my children, and I don't want to come there. So he was conditioned in that life. So we also get conditioned in the material life so much that we don't want to get out of it. And we feel that this is material and this is what gives us happiness, enjoyment. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Anybody would like to add? Subtract, multiply, divide. What is conditioned? What does it mean to be conditioned?
We are illusioned. That is also, can we tell that that is also conditioned? Like
What did I tell you last week about condition? That is the question. What does it mean to be conditioned? Does condition mean
we are accepting illusion as being reality.
Okay, and primarily what is that? So let's take the example of air conditioning that I talked about, right? What does the air conditioner do? It conditions the air, right? So what exactly does conditioning mean of the air, right? And that is that if you set the air conditioner, you go and you put the air conditioner like 35 degrees centigrade or 25 degrees centigrade, right? You set it, and what the air conditioner will do, it will condition the air, that it will maintain it at that temperature. This is what you will be, 25 degrees centigrade. If you try to go above 25 degrees centigrade, I will do something, I will cool you down. If you go below 25 degrees centigrade, I will do something and I'll bring your temperature up. You have to be 25, right? This is where you are. So in the example of Indra, the condition has to be understood as, if you are in the body of a pig, you will work as a pig, right? For example, if you take lizard, when you look at a lizard, how do you feel? You feel very nice, right? You don't, right? But a female lizard and a male lizard have attraction towards each other, right? So when you are in a body, you will act according to the body. So this Maya has got two potencies. One is known as the throwing potency, and the other is known as the covering potency. So by the throwing potency, it will put you into illusion. So it will put you into thinking that you are this body, I'm a pig. And the covering potency, you will not see anything else. You will behave like a pig. You will go, you will eat stool. You will not see that stool is bad. It's all covered. You try to give halwa to a pig, might not eat. He'll go and find some ditch and he'll eat things from there, right? So condition means that's how you will be. He was Indra, the king of all the demigods, right? King of heavens, right? And he's there in a ditch with a female soul and his 12 piglets around him. And been
But
there for
also
12
it's
years.
because of our imperfect senses, right? That we become dependent on these material conditions because of our imperfect senses.
Because of, not because of imperfect senses. For example, let's take a human being, right? A human being has got perfect senses, perfect 20/20 eyesight, and sees a bottle of wine. But if he's an alcoholic, he even reads the label there, or even on the cigarette packets on India, right? They put pictures of people who had cancer, lung cancer and all that. You take all that and you give money and you buy that and then you smoke. Right? So it's not that they had any imperfect senses. Something else is acting there, right? It's addiction, the mind. So what throws us there is the false ego, that I identify with whatever body that I am in and I will behave like that body. So the example that I gave was that, you try to give grass to a lion to eat. You can put a box of grass in front of the lion. He will not eat because it's conditioned to act in a certain way, right? So conditioned living entity means it's there in some body, some material body, and because of false ego, it thinks it's that body and then acts according to whatever that body is supposed to do. A cat will act a certain way, and in that body, there's a covering potency. Kunti Maharani, in her prayers to Krishna in the Bhagavatam, says, "Maya hi javani kachanam." Javani kacha means curtain, right? Just like a curtain, the Maya puts a curtain on our eyes and then we see things very differently. Now, as we understand curtain, we always understand curtain is that, if I put this curtain in front of me, you guys cannot see me. Like that, we always understand curtain. But then where we are, the curtain we are talking about is the curtain on the truth. Sachai pe parda, as we say in Hindi, right? That you put the curtain on the truth, you're not able to see the truth. That you are the soul. And you have nothing to do with this body. You're just housed in this body. You are not a female or a male or a man or a lizard or a horse or a donkey, whatever, right? That is not the real truth is that you are the soul, you are a part and parcel of Krishna, and that your job is to do eternal service to him. Sutapa Mataji.
Mataji, we all are human beings, but still human to human, like we act differently. It's not
Yes.
that all the humans act like the same way. So
Yes.
it's not like that. So that means it is coming from the previous birth and sanskara.
Yes, exactly. And when I was explaining Sankhya Yoga to all of you, right? Sankhya Yoga prathak bala, na parvadanti panditaha. Krishna had said in the verse last week where he said that those who say that Sankhya Yoga is different from, doing bhakti, are talking childish talks. And when I was explaining Sankhya Yoga and how Sankhya Yoga goes ultimately and reaches God, right? So Sankhya Yoga, in the beginning, we said that, they will explore. You go, through whatever means you have of exploring the material world. You can go on excursions. You can go to a chemistry lab. You can go to a physics lab. You can sit in front of a guru. He explains all that to you. And then they came to the conclusion that this material world, the gross material world, is made up of how many elements?
24.
Material world.
8.
Isn't it 7, 6, 7?
8.
Okay, 8, 7. Varshana is saying 5.
5.
And what are those 5? The gross material world. Be careful the question I asked. I asked, what is the gross material world made up of? So what's the answer for that?
Fire, water, air, ether, and
Earth.
And earth, right? So these are the 5 that make up the gross material world, right? And then there is the subtle. So then they say that, to Sutapa, answering your question, that if everybody is made up of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, which also means that 2 human beings are also made up of earth, water, fire, and ether, so why do they behave differently? For example, if I make one computer, one laptop, and I make another laptop, they behave the same, right? So now what is it that is different? So then they explore. Sankhya Yoga will explore, will keep on asking this question, what is it? What is it? What is it?
5 knowledge elements that eyes and everything.
How the components have been
So then
different.
they will dig further deeper and find that what differentiates one human being from another human being, right? I mean, they could even be twins looking the same, is the subtle body. And the subtle body is made up of additional 3 elements, but they are subtle. So that is a subtle material world as compared to the gross material world, right? So in the subtle material world, there is
Mind, intelligence, and
Soul,
false
mind, and
ego.
intelligence.
False ego.
Yeah, false ego, mind, and the intelligence. So that is what is going to make the difference. So a mind, what is a mind? A factory of thoughts. So then it's a factory. Well, I have a factory of shoes. If this factory produces shoes, that factory produces shoes. And but they produce different shoes. Why do they produce different shoes? Because they are wired to think in a certain way. The algorithms to produce shoes are different. The rules and regulations to produce shoes are different. Similarly, the mind also acts under certain rules and regulations. And those rules and regulations keep on getting, it's like a learning. I don't know how many of you, I'm pretty sure most of you would have noticed that 10 years ago, when we used to sit down and write an email, we would just write the email. Dear Vaishana Mataji, hope you are doing well. So now it is like, Dear Vaishana Mataji, and I type, hope you are, and the computer automatically fills the rest of the statement, hope you are doing well, right? So what has happened there? Why is the computer able to do that? Because the computer behind the scenes has been constantly watching you write so many emails. It has got that data inside it. It has got that artificial intelligence in it to be able to complete your sentence. Now, it's very dangerous, but nevertheless, it is there. So, so those algorithms are there. And so it learns. Similarly, the mind also learns that, in this case, this happens, this case, that happens. When you see this, these are the thoughts that come to mind, and those thoughts were relished. So it'll keep on producing more of that, right? Whatever sells, you produce more of that, right? That's the rule of this world, right? If you're in that business. So there's a mind. And so depending on what you have been doing, and not only what you have been doing here, but then doing in all your lifetimes, ever since you came into this material world, whatever you have been doing, they are getting baked into the algorithm, and the algorithm is being refined, so to speak, as far as algorithms go. And that is what will make the difference between 2 human beings, even if they are twins, identical twins like that, right? So it's a subtle. And that's why in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gita, it is said that lowest of all is the dull matter, right? Lowest of all. Like a chair is there, made up of dull matter. A laptop is there, a mouse is there, dull matter, right? Nothing further it can do, it's just that it will be. But then above the dull matter are the senses. And then in that context, we talked about 5 and 5 senses, right? Do we remember what were those 5 and what were they called?
5 are senses, and 5 are the objects of the senses.
No, my question is, what were the 5 senses?
Working senses and knowledge acquiring senses.
Correct. Yeah. Working senses and knowledge acquiring senses. So what are the knowledge acquiring senses?
Eyes, nose, tongue, skin.
Why do you guys, I ask for 5 and you always give me 4. That's not right. 24% discount. Give me all 5.
Are you talking about
Eyes,
like
nose,
tongue,
tongue.
taste, touch, and all that?
I'm talking about the working senses. The senses that collect the knowledge, not the working senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, the ones that, the senses that acquire knowledge.
The
Listen
brain.
listen to the question. And then
Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin.
And skin, correct. Okay. So, right. So those are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. And then we also talked about the working senses, which are?
Yeah.
Hands, legs.
Hands, legs, tongue, reproduction, and rectum.
Excretion.
Excretion.
Yeah, it's more than that. Yeah. So those are the 5 working senses. So the chapter of 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gita, it says that lowest of all are the is the dull matter. It cannot do anything. But other than that are the senses. Why? Because number one, the eyes can gather some information about a chair. A chair sitting next to the dining table has no idea about the dining table. No idea can tell you about the shape, form, size, temperature, anything about the table next to it, or even the next chair or the cushion on top of the chair, like that, right? So, but the knowledge acquiring senses can do that. And similarly, a chair by itself, cannot walk away, although it has got legs, right? As kids, we used to have this nice little, who has got legs and cannot walk? And you would think about that. Who has got legs and cannot walk? And it'd be like, oh, chair, like that. Who has got tongue and cannot talk? Tell me. Who has got tongue and cannot talk?
All the animals.
Animals.
All animals.
Animals don't talk?
No, they do talk, Mataji.
Then
They have their own way of expressing.
Then that's not the answer. So,
Oh wait, I know it's on the
Snake,
tip of
Mataji.
my
Snake,
sorry,
snake.
snake makes a hissing sound.
Oh wait, I know the shoe. Shoe has got a
Shoe, exactly, for 500 points. The shoe has got a tongue. You know, for the tongue of the shoe, where it is? On top of the tongue, you tie the lace, right? The one below this is the tongue, right? The shoe has a tongue. Anyway, that was besides the Bhagavad-gita question that we were discussing. So material nature is like that. Vidya Vadhu was very good at asking me all these kinds of questions, and I never could answer a single one of them. Never answered. She once asked me, what is Mr. D, Mr. I, Mr. FFI, Mr. C, Mr. U, Mr. LTY?
TY.
I could not answer that either.
What? No, you could. You could.
I was very naive, I have to tell you that. Yeah.
wait. What is the answer to that? What is that again?
Difficulty.
Oh,
Difficulty, Aruni Mataji.
Oh, difficulty.
So yeah. So anyway, so going back to knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses. So you can kick a chair, right? You can pull a chair, you can lick a chair if you want, you can smell it also, whatever, right? So you can get more knowledge and you can do things with your working senses. And then it says that above the senses is the mind. And above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. And that's what he's telling us, it's the soul, right? But in the Sankhya Yoga, what happens is that as you are trying to distinguish between and trying to understand that how this material world works, then in the process of trying to understand material world, you will come to understand that, okay, two people are different because of the mind, right? So you come to that level, but then the person dies, or a cat dies, or a dog dies, and now you have to think like, what happened, what has changed, right? And then you dig deeper and come to the soul, right? And then you come to the soul, and from the soul you go to the Paramatma, like that, right? And we had looked at the verses from Bhagavad-gita about the soul and the super soul, like that there, right? So does that answer your question, Sutapa and Varshana Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Awesome. So Varshana Mataji, may I lower your hand?
I have a question, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead.
That the subtle body carries the mind, intelligence, and the false ego. Now the soul is also there, no, Mataji, with it?
Yeah. But we are talking about the material world, right? Remember? I was talking about the gross material world and the subtle material world. Soul is not material, soul is spiritual.
So spiritual.
Soul is spiritual.
But
right?
it goes with it. But it goes with the subtle body, no?
No, not the soul doesn't go with the subtle body goes with the soul. The active thing is the soul. Yes. The active thing is the soul. And also the airs that are there in your body, the prana vayu as we call it, right? So the prana vayu is the life air, they say. It's said that the soul actually floats all over your body wherever the airs are. It floats. And Bhagavad-gita, Prabhupada explains that or mentions that. So it floats there in the air. And so there's although the seat is the heart, right? But it can go anywhere in the body, it can float. And that will explain the heart transplant, right? How does the heart transplant happen if the soul lives in the heart? If you take the heart from one person to and give it to that person, what happens to the soul? And what happens to the heart that you remove because the soul was there? The soul can move. Yeah, it's very active. And so So it's floating in what we call as the prana vayu, right? It's pran, apan, saman, udan. We talked about the 5, and then more subtle values like, air that makes you yawn, and the air that makes your eyelids blink, the air that pushes food in your, pushes the fetus outside of the body. All those are air. Everything happens according to the air. So when people die, their pran vayu also leaves. Pran vayu also leaves with the soul. So the soul leaves. That's why they say uske pran pakheru ud gaye, right? Pran pakheru ud gaye means the pran vayu also leaves the body, and then with it, it'll go to the next. Meera Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Can you explain pran vayu again? I missed it. I just got up and had to do something.
Yeah, so pran vayu is air. These are different types of air in our body, right? For example, the air that you breathe in, the air that you breathe out, there's some air that is active that makes your eyelids blink, right? There's some air that pushes the food inside your intestines as it goes from the stomach, intestines, and all the way out of the body. There's some air that pushes the baby out of the womb of the mother, right? There's some air that you do that is used for movements. Any movement that are happening, if I'm able to raise the air, it's because of the pran vayu that I have. And so I was saying that when a person dies, the pran vayu also leaves the body. And it takes some time.
It can be anywhere in our body, pran vayu?
It's throughout the body.
Throughout
the body, yeah.
In legs and thighs and hands.
Everywhere, yeah. There's pran vayu. Yeah.
Is prana vayu the same? Is it used interchange? I mean, is prana the short form for prana vayu?
Prana vayu, yes, the pranas.
So isn't it when a person dies, and even when the prana leaves, the body is still alive for a few minutes? Is that
and
right?
That's the reason, because it takes some time for the prana to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some time, yeah. So that is why you'll sometimes also find that, the nails might even grow if you keep the body in a morgue for some time before you burn it. The nails have grown. You'll be like, what? I thought the person was dead. How come the nails are growing? Because it takes time for the prana vayu to leave the body. So the growth will be there. Growth is because of the prana vayu.
So they don't feel anything though?
No, the soul has left, yeah.
Okay,
Feelings.
the minute soul leaves, the body they don't feel anything.
When the soul leaves the body, does the soul feel anything? Is that the question you're asking?
No, the body. Oh yeah, the
body never. Here's the interesting thing: the body never feels anything. Never. Oh. It's like a dull matter. If I take a stick and start beating my mouse, nothing happens to the mouse, right? The mouse never.
They say, Mataji, like even every cell, apart from what we feel, like every individual cell has their own feeling. So that's why you shouldn't like even talk against yourself, even say my hair's like this or my body's like this or whatever, because every part of your body can feel.
Yeah, and it's the soul that is making the cell feel. See, that is where the concept of false ego comes in, Arunimataji. You think that you are the soul, you are the cell. Each and every cell in your body is you. That's what you think. So if anything happens, God thinks you are feeling it like that, right? And that's the way science puts it, like that. Actually, all these feelings that are, whatever somebody is saying negative, all these are getting stored in your mind. And then the mind controls everything. Mind is higher than the senses, right? So it'll control everything in your body. But above the mind is the intelligence. Intelligence can control what the mind thinks. And even above the intelligence is the soul. It can control even what the intelligence is guiding, So that is how the hierarchy is. So when the soul leaves the body, you can say anything to the dead body. Nothing will be recorded. If you're looking at it from the science perspective, that something gets recorded like that, and the feelings are there. Feelings come from the soul. It's only the soul that is sentient. You can stand in front of a chair and say anything that you like to the chair. Nothing will happen. But if you come and sing and say good things in front of a plant, the plant grows. Why does a plant grow? Because plant has got a soul, right? So you see the difference between the two of them. Even negativity, positivity will be applicable only when there is a soul there.
So Mataji, if mind stored the negativity, so it will direct the intelligence to do what means it will direct intelligence to do what.
It'll keep presenting things to the intelligence. It'll keep on presenting things to the intelligence. One thing we have to remember is that although we start this verse from lower to up, saying that lowest is the dull matter, above the dull matter are the senses, above the senses the mind, above the mind is intelligence, above the intelligence is soul. But we have to remember the starting point is the soul. It is a soul who had a desire. And because of the desire and because of other activities that the soul did in the previous births, it got a suitable body, which means it's now got a mind, now got an intelligence of a particular type and a mind which works on a certain algorithm, right? So that is why, and then according to the algorithm, the mind will again present the same thing. And because of the algorithm, the intelligence will again come to the same decision. Right? If you say 2 + 2, you write to a small computer, big computer, laptop, iPhone, iPad, wherever you say, it will say 2 + 2 is 4, because that's why they're wired. The algorithm is that, right? So now we have to change. We have to change this algorithm that is there in our mind from so many births, millions of births, right? And so, how do we do that? Cheto darpan marjanam, Shikshastakam, first verse, right? Right? So you have to cleanse that mind. What does it mean? That you have to clean, you have to redo all this wiring that has gone into our mind. You have to redo that. And how do you do that? By doing the Hari Nam Sankirtan, by vibrating it. Substituting and bringing in better vibration is the only way that you can clean your mind.
So Mataji, you said that whatever negativity, positivity, it only affects the entity only when the soul is there. So, but when it affects the entity, does it affect it at the mind level, the senses level, or at the soul level?
So the feeling only comes from the soul. And because the soul thinks that I'm this body, then the effect is seen in the body also.
So if it affects it at the soul level, and when the soul leaves the body, it takes all the impressions gathered, right? So this means that if there has been negativity sent to that entity, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the soul will be taking that negativity with it.
Yes. That is why some people are born negative and some are born positive. It all comes from their previous.
No, so what if somebody else has sent it? How that is not really that is not coming from the soul themselves, but it has been attached to the soul by someone else. So how do you get rid of that?
Right. The soul, it doesn't get attached to the soul, but nobody can attach things to the soul, right? Because soul cannot be cut, dried, moistened, nothing can be done to the soul, right? It all happens because of the false ego. Because I think that, somebody went, like, for example, if I go and say, Aruni Mataji, I don't like your nose. By the way, I love it. So then that has etched, like Shraddha Mataji said, my nose is bad. No, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. That will get etched to it. Now, however, through Shastric knowledge that we gain, right, all the time, and we are also learning certain things in devotional service, right? In devotional service, and people can react to that. And I always keep on saying that between thinking, feeling, willing, and acting, right? We should try to increase the gap between all of them. For example, if somebody says like, oh, I don't like the way your hair is cut. And of course, because I'm identifying myself with the body, if this hair is not cut properly, then it is something wrong that has happened to me, the soul. Although it's not the case, I'm still the same, right? So then, there's so many ways in which I can react. I can say that, I have a barber, she doesn't do a good job. Can you please tell me a good barber or whatever like that? I have dandruff, whatever, you can talk like that. Or other thing is also like, you wait and you just, ignore. And after some time, you just say that, I think your blouse is too tight or too loose. So it's just the way a mind thinks. A revengeful mind will come and say something like that. So it depends on the algorithms that are baked in the psyche. Or in the mind of a person.
No, but these are like most lighter examples. I mean, what if somebody's sending deliberate, strong energy, not by words, but by other means? Then, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to ignore this because it's being directed at you. And
it's a good point that you bring in. And so surrounding our body, and because the mind is thinking and there is a lot of electrons in our body, there is a magnetic field around our body, right? So these thoughts that come from other people, they are also magnetic waves. They're electromagnetic waves. And when somebody's things touch you and affect you, they are able to pierce to this aura that you have around you They pierce through that and, touch the soul and, have an effect. I think I told that story some time ago of a Buddhist monk who used to go from place to place. They go from place to place to beg, right, for alms, and then they come and they eat and they survive on that. And so he used to go to one place and the man was very, very abusive. He used to use bad words and call them good for nothing and have you come here again and, don't want, get out of my house and all that. And so he was very upset and he goes to Gautam Buddha and he says that, this is what is happening. So then next day, Gautam Buddha goes with him. And then the same man comes out and he says, oh, so today you brought 2 of you here. And then he keeps on, blaspheming, for a long time. And Gautam Buddha just sits there quiet, stands there quiet, he doesn't say anything. And after some time, the man, falls down. He has a heart attack. And then, of course, Buddha sits down, shouts, calls, takes care of him and whatever. And then he comes back to senses. And then when he sees that Buddha had helped him, he feels ashamed and, But the main part of the story continues after that. When the Shishya says that, what happened? This man was so strong. And then the Buddha does an experiment. He says that, okay, so what did the guys give you in the previous home? So he said, they gave me 2 apples. He said, okay, give me one of them. So the Shishya goes into his pocket and a bag and he takes out an apple and he gives it to, he does like this to give it to Buddha. Buddha doesn't take it. He said, take it. Buddha, shakes his head, I won't take it. And after some time he says that you tried to give me an apple and I did not take it. So where did the apple remain? It remained with you. Similarly, same thing with negative energy, curses, all those kinds of things, they will affect you only when you take it. If you don't take it, then they will stay with that man. And that's what happened. All those curses stayed with the man and he had a heart attack because of that. So in our day-to-day life also, we have reached a stage, right? We have reached a stage, we are following devotional service. So we are definitely on an accelerated and a much better path of, handling this material world where we all are today. And so we have to look at these things. And that's why they say sadhana bhakti. Why does it say sadhana bhakti? Because we are not perfect. We are not perfect human beings. We are not perfect bhaktas. And so we have practicing how to do devotional service. Because as part of our sadhana bhakti, we say that, either use your intellect if you have a sharp intellect. If you don't have a sharp intellect, just the process of doing devotional service itself is purifying. So either you can logically purify your mind and be very analytic and be very observant as to what I'm doing. So this person is abusing me, I should not do that. This person is saying this, I should not do that. But it's difficult if you have got a conditioned life or being conditioned over many, many births. Right? The second thing is that, okay, you immerse yourself so much in devotional service. That's why I say that, I know of a person when he was very, very upset, then he would start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Just so that, why is he chanting Hare Krishna mantra? Because doesn't want to encourage the mind into thinking in that direction. So what he's doing is that, because he's starting to feel, right? And he's trying to increase the gap between feeling and acting on it. Right? If they all come together, then, boom, somebody said something, boom, I thought that it's hurting me, boom, I decided to do something, and boom, I did it, right? And then regret, like that. So if the more we increase the size, and last week I was telling the group here that there's a couple that I know when the wife is upset about something and goes to the husband and says, the husband says, let's talk about it tomorrow. And by the time it's tomorrow, the wife has slept over it, both have slept over it, the situation. He'll say, okay, let's explain me a little bit about what the situation is, and then we'll talk in detail about it tomorrow. So the wife has got a chance to, let out her frustration or whatever it is that's bothering her. And then they talk in the morning because they increase the gap between thinking, feeling, willing, and acting like that. So it's very, very important that we constantly stay and make that as a habit to always do that. It's a difficult thing to do. I remember when we were young, I don't know if Varshana Machij might know or not, somebody from UP would know that there were kids magazines that come, like nowadays there's Amar Chitra Katha that kids read, right? In my times there was Chanda Mama, and there was Nandan, and there was Parag.
Oh, I remember Chanda Mama. I mean, I haven't read it, but I know the name.
Right? That was Parag. So Parag was for kids. I used to read. And then what the Parag people did was they said, okay, since the kids for which it was being written, 10 years later, the kids have become, teenagers, right? So they said our content should also be geared towards teenagers, right? So they started bringing in those kinds of things. So there, what do teenagers do? One of the things that teenagers do is that they start using bad words in the language, like 4-letter words, and they think it's a very smart thing to do, right? So there was this group of friends, they got into this habit, like, every time they would speak a sentence, there'll be like 2 bad words. One will start with this and end with that, like that. So they would do that. And then they knew that this was not the right thing to do. And so they said that, okay, let us do this thing. And this is the beauty of the literature, how the story was written. So they said that, okay, if anybody speaks one wrong word, you have to take, like 1 cent or 10 paisa, and you have to put it into this jar. So that was something that, they wholeheartedly agreed. And so the narration in the story went like, they all wholeheartedly agreed. And in the next 1 minute, the jar was full. Because, habit. It's the habit. Even if you want to do the right thing, it's still coming. Why? Because between thinking, feeling, willing, and acting, there's no gap at all. No gap at all. But as you increase it, and then of course the story included that a month later, the jar was always empty because they had got practice, sadhana bhakti practice. We're all doing sadhana bhakti at different levels, different stages, like that.
It's a good way of fundraising, Mataji.
That's very true. I like that idea. For every bad word you say, give 1 cent. Oh yeah, I'll be a millionaire. So Neeral Prabhu has joined us today. Fantastic. Good to have you. Yeah. So where were we? So we were talking, but good questions. So we were talking about the Vaikuntha planet, and by 15.6 we were saying about the contradictions. And so where God is near and God is far away. And in that context, we were discussing his living place, where he lives. So as long as the living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. And I was asking the question, what is conditioned life? But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditioned life, the entity considers himself to be the Lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the spiritual Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it's very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees who are in Krishna consciousness. One should reach out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in a saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. Okay, now this is a description of the verse, so I'm going to just skip on that, right? So this was about, about the contradictions, right? So in the Ishopanishad, the contradictions were saying that he is near, he's far away. So from there we jump to Bhagavad-gita. So coming back again, that he said that we should not take it for granted that because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Sri Vaishnavas refused this argument by declaring that Lord is far away, but very near also. The abode of Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is confirmed in Bhagavad-gita, which we just read. But despite the Lord's being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us with a speed swifter than that of the mind or wind. He can also run so swiftly that no one can surpass him. This has already been described in the previous mantra. Yet when the personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in Bhagavad-gita 9.11. What is 9.11? Avajananti mamuda manisham, right? Very famous verse. When people are foolish, they think that he's a human being. where he says that foolish deride him, considering him a mortal being. He's not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with a body produced of material nature. There are so many so-called scholars who contend that the Lord descends in a body made of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Not knowing his inconceivable power, such foolish men place the Lord on an equal level with ordinary men. Now, this is very important. Because he's full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. Non-believers argue either that the Lord cannot incarnate himself at all, or if he does, he descends in the form of material energy. These arguments are nullified if we accept the existence of the Lord's inconceivable potencies. Then we will understand that even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert this energy into spiritual energy. Since the source of the energies is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of the source. For example, the Lord can appear in the form of the Arch Vigraha, a deity, supposedly made of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms, although engraved from wood, stone, or other matter, are not idols or statues, as the iconoclast contend. In our present state of imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord due to imperfect vision. Yet, those devotees who want to see him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in the so-called material form to accept his devotees' service. One should not think that such devotees who are in the lowest stage of devotional service are worshipping an idol. They are factually worshipping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in an approachable way. Nor is the archa form fashioned according to the whims of the worshipper. This form is eternally existent with all paraphernalia. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist. In the Bhagavad-gita 4:11, which we read, the Lord says that how he treats his devotee depends on the devotee's degree of surrender. Ye yatha mam prapadyante, right? The Lord reserves the right not to reveal himself to anyone and everyone, but to show himself only to those souls who surrender unto him. Thus, for the surrendered soul, he is always within reach, whereas for the unsurrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. In this connection, two words the revealed scripture often apply to the Lord. Saguna, with qualities, and Nirguna, without qualities, are very important. The word Saguna does not imply that when the Lord appears with perceivable qualities, he must take on a material form and be subject to the laws of material nature. For him, there is no difference between the material and spiritual energies because he's the source of all energies. As a controller of all energies, he cannot at any time be under their influence as we are. The material energy works according to his direction. Therefore, he can use that energy for his purposes without ever being influenced by any of the qualities of that energy. In this sense, he is nirguna, or without qualities, like without material qualities. Nor does the Lord become a formless entity at any time, for ultimately he is the eternal form, the primeval Lord. His impersonal aspect of Brahman effulgence is but the glow of his personal rays, just as the sun's rays are the glow of the sun god. When the same child, Prahlad Maharaj, was in the presence of his atheist father, his father asked him, "Where is your God?" When Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace, and the child said yes. At once, the atheist king shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and the Lord instantly appeared as Narsimha, the half-man, half-lion incarnation, and killed the atheist king. Thus, the Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any time in order to favor his sincere devotee. Lord Nrsimha appeared from within the pillar, not by the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of his devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but the Lord will appear anywhere and appear to show and everywhere to show mercy to his devotee. The Bhagavad-gita 4.8 similarly states that the Lord appears in order to vanquish non-believers, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkitam, and protect the believers. Of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents who can vanquish atheists, but it pleases him to personally favor a devotee. Therefore, he descends as an incarnation. Actually, he descends only to favor his devotees and not for any other purpose. In the Brahma Samhita 5.25, it says that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything by his plenary portion. He enters the universe as well as all the atoms of the universe. He's outside of his Virat form and he's within everything as Antaryami. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on and he awards us the result of our actions as Karmaphala. What would be another word for Antaryami?
Paramatma?
Paramatma, correct, for 500 points. We ourselves may forget what we have done in previous lives, but because the Lord witnesses our actions, the results of our actions are always there, and we have to undergo the reactions nonetheless. The fact is, there is nothing but God within and without. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, like the heat and light emanating from a fire. And in this way, there is oneness among his diverse energies. Although there is oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities. And that would be us, right? So what I was trying to, I went through all that is so that we appreciate and hear about the potencies of the Lord, right? And Arjuna was confused because of the seemingly dual and contradictory statements that Krishna is making. And I was saying that Krishna is full of contradictions. So now, for example, can Krishna build a wall so tall that he cannot climb, right? How do you answer that question? So Krishna was asking him this, that how do you, you asked me to renounce work and then you asked me to work in devotion. So I'm very, very confused about that. So then Krishna started, explaining him that, of the two, but it's better to work in devotional service. And then emphasize that, you do not do your work, do not focus on the results of the action. And then he says that in the last verse that he said, only the ignorant speak of devotional service or karma yoga as being different from the analytical study of the material world, which is Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So continuing on with the verse from today, it is that Yat Sankhya praptate sthanam tad yogera pigamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yapashyati cha pashyati. So Yat means what? Sankhya, by means of Sankhya philosophy. Prapyate is achieved. Sthanam, place. Tat, that. Yoga, by devotional service. Api, also. Gamyate, one can attain. Ekam, one. Sankhyam, analytical study. Cha, and yogam, action and devotion. Cha, and yaha, one who. Pashyati, sees. Saha, he. Pashyati, actually sees. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The real purpose of philosophical research. Now, this is very, very important. So, all the jnanis who are trying to do this Sankhya yoga, looking at everything in the world and trying to figure out what is happening, how it is happening, right? So they are doing all this philosophical research and then going into the realm of the metaphysics, mind, intelligence, and all that. But the real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, which is such an important thing, because under the influence of false ego, we are thinking we are something else, which we are not. So like, this is the biggest mistake that can happen. You yourself, people can put a wrong report, they can get into a wrong relationship, they can do all those kind of things. But the worst is, not even knowing who you are, right? That's the height of ignorance. So there is no difference between conclusions reached by the two processes, right? Because even if you're doing philosophical research, you have to go for the ultimate goal of life, and which is to do self-realization. So if you're doing bhakti, from there also you'll get self-realization. If you're doing Sankhya yoga, you'll also get self-realization. Only thing is that Sankhya yoga is a little bit more involved because when you are pursuing Sankhya philosophy, when you are not focusing on Krishna as such as the Lord and Master, and you're using your intellect. So your intellect will take you only to a certain level and not beyond that through the intellect. But bhakti will make the impossible happen, right? And bhakti, the faith that you have, right? In somebody supreme to you. For example, I remember when we were in the old temple in Bascom Street, and Varshana Mataji was in USA and she used to live close by. And so she took shelter. She met me on a Wednesday when I had come for a class. And she said that she wanted to take shelter of Guru Maharaj. So I did tell Guru Maharaj about that. And she said she'll come and write a letter to Guru Maharaj and give him the letter with her intention to take initiation in the future. So then it so happened that Guru Maharaj told me that he was traveling. He was going to travel and that he would not come to the temple on Saturday. So I told that to Varshana Mataji. I said, you know what? He will not come. And she said, "Wo aayenge. I have faith that he will come." And I was just coming and thinking that, how can she say that? Guru Maharaj has told me that he's not going to come. And how do I break her heart when she's saying that he will come, he'll come, And lo and behold, Saturday, he was there. So faith is something which is beyond the logic. I was applying logic. Varshana Mati was applying faith. It's very, very powerful. Shraddha is very, very powerful. Faith. So in devotional service, the first thing is to have the faith. But the Sankhya yogis, they don't care about that. They believe that I am smart, I am intelligent, I will figure it out. And then they will stop at the Brahma Jyoti. They'll stop at the Brahma Jyoti. And also remember that doing devotional service actually brings out certain good qualities in you. Yasaksi bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunes tatra samasate sura harav abhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena sthit dhavato vahihi. So it says that one who is a devotee, all the good qualities which are there in the demigods themselves are devotees of the Lord, right? All the good qualities of the demigods are in that devotee. And on the contrary, harav abhaktas, harav means harika, of Hari. Abhaktas means opposite, one who is not a bhakta of Hari. Kuto mahadguna, where are any good qualities in that person? All that person will do, all that a person who is not a devotee of the Lord will do, he's going to sit on the chariot of his mind. Manorathena sthit. And where will he run in that chariot? Bahihi, he will run outwards. And what is there outside of us? The whole material world is outside of us. So it will go chasing the material world. Whereas the bhakta inside finds the peace and the happiness inside, like that. Right? So a person using the intellect, will not be pursuing those things of pursuing devotional service, which brings you as a result, as a consequence. It might take some more time. It might take less time, depending on how our mind was wired earlier. But it will purify your mind. It will bring out the better human qualities like humility, compassion, so on and so forth, like that. So when you don't have that, and when you're just pursuing your intellect and you're saying that, I'm smart, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just meditate on something, right? So the famous story of Vishwamitra, and I keep on bringing the story of Vishwamitra. By the way, Vishwamitra in the beginning he wanted to become, he was a Kshatriya actually, right? And he met, who did he meet?
Manaka.
No, before Manaka. He met Vasishtha, right? And he saw that he had a Kalpadhenu, right? He had a cow, a desired cow that would give whatever he desired, and he wanted that cow, right? But the rishis in those days used to keep these cows in their own homes because to take care of the ashram, because they were not working, right? So that the cow will give them anything that you wanted, protection, food, medicines, whatever you needed, the cow would give you. And you would also use the things that cow gave to take care of the visitors. The earlier time, the kings, etc., used to also come and visit the rishis. So that was used for that purpose and nothing more and nothing less. You would just ask as much as you needed and not infinite. And so Vishwamitra goes there and he wants that. And he forcefully tries to take it away. And, ultimately he says, okay, but Vasishtha is a Brahmana. So he says, okay, I'll become a Brahmana. He sits down to meditate. And he sits and he meditates for, 10,000 years. And he's just meditating. There is no concept of bhakti there at all. He's doing the practice of meditation. He's focusing, controlling his senses. He's doing everything in his mighty way. He's a Kshatriya. He's going to do it, right? And he's made up his mind. And then one strange senses, like one sense, which was the sense of hearing, that strayed. And what did he hear?
The anklet.
Ankle bell.
The ankle, that sound of the ankle bell, right? Just one. And then lo and behold, he comes into into Grihasthashram. He leaves all that, marries Menka, has a daughter. And then when he realizes, he's like, oh my goodness, right? So it started with, whatever he was, there was desire in him, right? There was desire. Of course, that was hidden. He did not know. In the beginning, what was very prominent in him was greed. So greed is lobha, the greed. He has a Kamdhenu guy, I want it. It should be mine. I want to possess it, right? And then when he was doing the devotional service, or not devotional service, when he was doing his meditational practice, then his hidden desires, took over him, right? Menka came, but you can't blame Menka. Just because somebody's dancing in front of you doesn't mean that you have to go with her, right? As was demonstrated by Haridas Thakur. That also the same situation was there, right? But the results were different. And so difference between a devotee and, a non-devotee, like that. And then later on, so then he comes back again. And then now Vishwamitra is just thinking, but no, Indra is just thinking, whenever such a thing happens, whenever somebody's doing those kind of penances, he says, I think he wants to become Indra in his next birth, or, so he's going to fight with me, he's going to get powers, and I will be dethroned. That's Indra's problem. So then he keeps on sending these females to, disturb them. And so next time he sent Rambha, it's even more beautiful. So Rambha also comes and starts her dance. And so Vishwamitra opens the eyes and sees Rambha, like, oh my God, last time my 10,000 years were gone. I'm not going to get into that, right? I have already done 10,000 more years of japa. So he gets very angry. He opens his eyes and Rambha is burned to ashes or stone or something like that. He does. So now he became victim of krodha. So lust, anger, and greed. None of the three went away because of the meditational practices that you're doing. It's only bhakti and only doing things for Krishna that is going to lead you to that, right? So Krishna is saying that, the end results will be the same for Sankhya Yoga and for Bhakti Yoga, but that shouldn't mean that we should say, okay, now, so I'll do Sankhya Yoga. This Bhakti Yoga, this 16 rounds and all that, very difficult. I better be behind a microscope and I can or read more about Sankhya Yoga. It is difficult. And in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, that's what Krishna says that, that it's very, very difficult. It's dukkha. There also Krishna, Arjuna asked him that question, right? Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastam paripasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. So he says, who are better than you? The ones who are just circulating on the formless God, right? So Sankhya Yoga will also come to some God. Know that, there is some superior energy, and that energy, when they try to reach the energy, they'll reach the effulgence from Krishna that we read there, right? The Vaikuntha planets are self-effulgent, right? We read in that verse. And all the effulgence actually coming from Krishna Loka. So they are in that effulgence, all these Vaikuntha planets are hanging, and somewhere there's a small portion, which is the material world also, but the rest of it is 3/4 is all the spiritual world. And so they just go all the way up to the energy, because that's what your goal was. Your goal was to find the energy. So here's the energy, light, right? So they go there, but they cannot do anything. And the soul by nature is active because it's part and parcel of Krishna. So they'll just be there, devoid of a material body, which is good, right? But with no activity. So they get bored. So when they are bored, because they don't know of anything above, and the only thing that they know was the thing which is below, so they go back. They come back here. And once they come back here, they might start doing the same thing again. Unless, some devotee has a mercy on them and then, goes to their home, knocks their door, gives them prasadam, or gives them a book to read, or invites them to Sankirtan, or they are going there and, they hear somebody doing Harinam on Palo Alto, like that. So although they will reach the same thing, but we have to also understand that it is difficult path. And it is so difficult that Krishna says, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanvan mam prapadyate. Sudurlabha, right? So it is after many, many births, then the jnani, or the one who's following this Sankhya philosophy, will realize that there is God and that he is everything. Vasudeva sarvam iti, that he's everything and the supreme. And sa mahatma sudurlabha, it's very difficult to find such people, right? And then he says, okay, then he becomes a Mahatma. And then there are thousands of such Mahatmas. So he says, Manushyanam sahasresu kaschit peti tatvataha. So out of all these thousands also, there will be, one that will be serious about me, even after knowing about me. And then out of all those serious, one or two will find me like that, right? But at least, the path is there. There might be some difficulty, but if you are among the chosen and you try to do the right thing and you go there, then there is goodness there and some good results, right? Which is the ultimate goal of life, is to do self-realization, to realize. And self-realization doesn't stop at that I am a soul. Self-realization, the true and the proper self-realization, is to know who am I and who am I related to and how am I related to that Supreme. So to know that I am there and to know that God is there. So Sankhya Yoga can also take you, maybe you can philosophically think that, okay, there's a soul, and then you might think that who created the soul? So you'll say that there is God. So when you start doing these kind of thinking, at some point you have to also stop. And so you stop at God. By definition, you stop at God as that who's the source of anything. Otherwise, you will be going on infinitely, right? Who created Krishna? Okay, somebody created Krishna. Okay, who created him? So you'll be, again, endlessly, you'll be churning your mind like that. So we stop at God and say, okay, he's the source of everything. And Krishna also says that, aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I'm the source of everything. But even after, you can reach that stage and say, okay, there is God, he created me, and I can just sit here. But bhakti connects you to the God, connects you by telling you that you have a relationship with God, and your relationship is to serve him. And you start doing the loving devotional service. So if in the end of traveling the Sankhya path, you have to ultimately come to do the loving devotional service, then it's fine if you're already doing it now. Right? They both are going to give you the same results. Right? But one is difficult and it's long. It takes a long time, and there are chances of falling down also in that path, right? As we see in all these stories. So I will stop here and open up for any questions, comments, realizations that we want. And are we going to have a glimpse of Keshvi? If not Krishna, at least we can see Keshvi today. What do you say?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. All right, here comes the cutie.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Kide.
Hare Krishna Keshvi.
Hari bol.
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada
She's
ki
grown a lot.
She's a big girl now, big girl.
Radha Rani ki Jai bolo.
Oh, Jai.
Hari bol.
Now she knows Shraddha Mataji, Vindhyavali Mataji, and Sukomala Radhe Mataji by face. She can say who is who.
She recognizes?
Yeah,
Because she sees us in the temple on Sundays, right? So
yes.
She calls Nani.
To Sukomala Radhe Mataji, she calls Nani.
yeah.
Kya hai Nani? Dandvat Pranam.
Dandavat pranam karo, dandavat pranam
All
karo.
the devotees.
Oh.
Look at that.
Say Damodar. Damodar.
She say Damodar. Maybe you say Kirtan. Keshi Kirtan.
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 After Guru Maharaj's Kirtan, I was asking her, what were you doing? She said, Kirtan.
Oh.
Wow, this is called Parvarish. Upbringing.
This is called devotees mercy, Mataji, that we get to now be in Kirtan because of her.
That is true. Yeah, sometimes the kids and their, their destiny will drag their parents also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you, Sudha.
usually it would have been, Suli?
Prabhupada.
So, Prabhupada.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji.
That's too hard, Kathy. Make it
No.
Gauranga. Just say Gauranga.
She says Tabu Tabuji.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's cute.
Gauranga, bola Gauranga.
And her favorite name that she calls her is Yamuna. Actually, she's showing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is behind the photo of Sukomal Radhe Mataji.
Yeah.
She's
likes
she's
Mahaprabhu.
pointing there. She's
Because that's the picture Guru Maharaj gave Me and Rakshit, like a long time back. Yeah.
Chaitanya
Do you
Mahaprabhu.
see it, Shraddha Mataji?
Yes, I can see it, definitely.
Yeah.
Wonderful picture.
Yeah. Her name is Yamuna. Keshri.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Whose name is Yamuna? Keshvi's name is Yamuna?
She calls herself Yamuna. So when I was pregnant, it took me a time. So my mom actually said that pray to Yamuna Maharani because she's a goddess of bhakti, right? So she started chanting Yamuna Shtak since my first day of my pregnancy. I went into the hospital. So the first thing like she learned was Yamuna to say like proper name. Keshri.
Oh, wow.
Say Yamuna.
Because in the other Pushti Magno, we pray to Yamuna Devi.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Bol Shri Ambe Maharani ki.
Die. And she says Yamuna, Yamuna, Yamuna. She dances like that. So Yamuna.
Wow.
Yamuna. Yeah.
She's so cute.
We miss
Especially
her.
with the haircut, she looks very cute.
Yeah.
You say, give me all the blessings so that I can serve you, everyone. Keshri, behat jodine.
And come more often
Hare
to this
Krishna
Bhakti
kahi do.
Vriksha.
Hare Krishna kahi do.
Hare Krishna kahi beta.
And now she's learning also in the Krishna Kids class.
Oh, yeah, she's in the smallest age group, right? 0
Yes,
to 3.
Kana class.
Yeah.
Keshri, chanda butter karvanu છે?
Hey, Chanda butter. Chanda butter, Yashoda Maiya.
Chanda butter, Yashoda Maiya. Churn it as fast as it could be. Churn it and mix it with sugar and ghee. Put it on the shelf for Balram and
Ask everyone.
this is all glorious to Radhika Prema Mataji for teaching her.
In the class. And she actually, when I started this, she started coming on this, even this video. She loves your son Mataji, Shraddha Mataji. In the morning also, Kathy's alarm starts with your prayer. Your recording. 5:30.
Oh, my goodness.
We still start with
Which is that recording?
पहले था ना
Agyanti Mirandasya Manglacharan.
Oh, Manglacharan prayers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just downloaded it from Nitya Sankirtan.
Oh, yeah.
You can just set it as your alarm. So
Wow, look at that. Keshvi, we are also very happy to see you.
Yeah, we are so happy, Mataji. Thank you so much.
we are getting mercy. So we are fortunate.
We get to hear the next one.
And today is Allison's birthday, right?
Oh, yesterday.
Yesterday.
So we wish
They are celebrating it. They are celebrating it on Sunday. So I'll go there on Sunday. That reminds me that I won't be able to have the class because we have to leave very early.
Yeah, no problem, Mataji.
Yeah.
We pray for
I'll put that
a
on
long and happy Krishna conscious life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That she really needs the mercy of devotees. Yeah.
Why so early? 6:30 you leave to go to see her?
No. But we have to be at her place by about 9 o'clock, a little before 9 o'clock. So I have to take care of,
Oh, yeah.
Sadam and all that, get ready. And then we have to drive and go there. It takes about, 40 minutes to drive. And
Very nice.
like that, yeah.
Nice, Mataji.
Give her a big hug from me, Shraddha Mataji.
I'll do that, definitely.
And from Keshvi.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day that they will all play together, hopefully.
She's so big already.
How old is she now, Mataji?
4.
Four.
Oh.
Yeah, time flies.
Of teaching something.
Yeah, last time we saw her video.
Was teaching
Yeah.
on the blackboard or whiteboard.
Yeah, kids have to. Yeah, I think the classes are really nice. Yeah, the way they teach kids, very nice. Yeah.
But she's equally fluent in Spanish and English, isn't it? So lucky at a very young age.
It's always nice to learn two different languages. I don't know how the kids' minds
They pick up very fast.
Yeah. She started calling you Nani. She also learned Punjabi, so I didn't realize, but she says like ba idhar,
I don't know how she maintains that.
sit here. And then she started doing Bhangra also. Balle balle. with sleeves.
She rolls up the sleeves and then does that.
Is that right, KHP?